Well, hello everyone. I hope you are all well. We're back. It's Sunday night. We're here for the Podding Shed chat, as we always do. Now, while everyone makes their way in, let me pop the phone number on the screen, and let's start off. As always, like to let you know what I've been up to and how this is going to work. So, what it is, you chat to me, tell me about your gardening stories. We create a conversation. I always start off with what I've been up to, but if you want to tell me what you're doing, leave a comment. And I can see there's a few people already commenting. You can call in on 07307 135 174, or you can zap yourself in on the link that I have put in the comments. Now, let's get started, shall we? So what have I been up to this weekend? December's been a really difficult month here at the Veg Grower Podcast HQ. We have, I've done a bit of weeding on the allotment, but most importantly, I've been concentrating on building my brand new podding shed. In the new year, it looks like we will be out in our new podding shed doing these live shows where I chat to you. So I'm really excited, really looking forward. But 5 o'clock this evening, I completed building the actual shed itself. Still got to dress the inside, but the actual shed is built. So I'm very, very happy with that. And that has mainly been what I've concentrated on this weekend. So let me know what you guys have been up to. I'm just going to go through the comments quickly and see who we've got out there. I can see there's a lot of people. We got Michael Stevens saying hello to everyone. Richard Vobes saying hello to you. And Julia Hartley, good evening to you. Laura Riddle is also out there. Hello to you. Hope you are well. Yep, we are very well here, Richard. Ernie, evening, Richard. How are you? It has been raining all day today and continuous grey sky. It's been the same here, actually. The rain has been a real problem, in all honesty, because when I woke up this morning, I thought, do I brave the weather and continue building this shed? But in essence, I decided it was worth building the shed and made the most of it, even though it was wet and miserable. Dad's out there. Good evening. How you doing? Very well, thank you. Turbo Stream, good evening from Birmingham underwater. I think there's been a lot of problem with rain today. Facebook user, I can only see your face. Have you hidden your body? No, my body is here. Can you not see that? That's obviously somebody in the Facebook group. So, yeah. Well done on building the shed. Thank you, Richard. Can't wait for it to be done. And hurrah on the new shed. When is the maiden voyage? If I get the inside done, it will be ready for the first Sunday in January, when we will go live from this new shed. Fingers crossed I can get everything done on the inside and set up. Now, Ernie, he's been weeding the garden, throughout the week, bar today. A battle against the ground elder amongst the bedding for next year's flowers. Ground elder, that is a nasty dilemma, ground elder. That's really horrible weed. So I don't envy you, but keep on it. You will get rid of it. Somebody else in the Facebook group and saying hello to me, and it was me, IB, and now you are moving. I can tell. I'm with you. Sorry, yes, my camo top and camouflage. Sorry, Ian, I'm with you. Right, now I've got in something to talk about quickly before we get into the main subject today. Last week we spoke about garden centres, and it's been a conversation I've had quite a bit. But this week I happened to see in a garden centre in Brighton near me. Let me get, can I get rid of that? I can't. This garden centre in Brighton has opened a new Sainsbury's food hall inside the garden centre. And I mean, it doesn't really go to say much, but I was wondering, as we were discussing last week, Is that a sign of what's happening on our garden centres? I don't want to go too much into this today, but I certainly felt a little like it summarised what's happening. A supermarket inside a garden centre. What can I say? Supermarket in a garden centre. It just seems a little wrong to me. I don't go. I mean, it might work for the garden centre, of course. It might bring in more business, but for me, I don't go to a garden centre to buy milk or anything. I go to a garden centre to buy plants or stuff for the garden. That being said, supermarkets still sell gardening stuff in the springtime. So, what's right? What's right? I thought I just wanted to share that because we let me get rid of that. Sorry, we discussed that last week, and I thought that was quite a interesting thing to come up. Back to the comments quickly, and then I'll ask the main question for today. No action at my allotment this week. The ground is just too wet still. I harvested a leek and a couple of parsnips. Well, we're getting to that time when leeks and parsnips are what we're going to be really relying on out of our allotments and gardens. And you're right, it is too wet at the moment to do too much, but you know what? Got to make the most of it. By the way, I'm drinking from one of our new Veg Grower Podcast Xmas mugs, only available on the veggrowerpodcast.co.uk throughout December. We've got No Dig to Victories out there. Dan Wheeler, who was on Facebook, but now has joined us on YouTube. Wonders will never cease. I think that's in a comment to the garden centre. IB here. If it keeps garden centres, I think he means open, then why not? And I kind of agree with that, but at the same time, it's not what I go into a garden centre for. But I do agree with what you're saying. That if it keeps garden centres open, is it worthwhile? Totally. I would prefer they sold local produce than a supermarket. Actually, that's a very good point. The two would complement each other, I would think. And again, I've got to say, I would be more interested in a garden centre selling that than anything else. Anyway, anybody else wants to comment on that, then please do. But what I wanted to ask everybody today, what garden gadgets do you have, and have they been a success? Now, with Christmas approaching, I'm sure we've all done it. We've bought a gardening tool that we thought was going to be absolutely amazing, and it'll revolutionise the way we work and everything. I've done it myself, and I quite like gardening gadgets. There's quite a few out there that do work. But when I was thinking about this question, it reminded me of something. I actually tried finding the tool to bring it up to show you today, and I couldn't find it, but I've found the website to share with you quite what I'm on about. Let's just check that's worked on the screen. Now, ignore that. It's called the Seed Saver, and I've had this for a number of years. I've used it once, and that was when it was pretty new to me, and I thought, I liked the idea of it. I thought sowing a lot of seeds, something like a row of carrots or parsnips, it would make life a lot easier. Let's try and find a better idea. I'll put the video on. Hopefully it'll work. I'll put the video on, and if I don't know if the audio is going to go through, so get the idea is what I guess I want to say. So, yeah, that was the Seed Saver. Let's remove that for now. That was the Seed Saver, which was a garden gadget that I thought would be really, really useful. And as that video has shown you, it looks really useful. Unfortunately, I just found it was far, far too difficult to use in the allotment. In a small garden or a small bed like they showed on that, it probably would be a good thing, but I found it too much. And I tried digging it out to show with everyone and bring it on. Don't know where it is, but I'm sure I've got it somewhere. But has anybody else got a garden gadget that they have found to be really, really, really useful and it's blown them away and revolutionized the way they garden? Or have they found a garden gadget that they use once, like the Seed Saver, and never use again? By the way, I'm not anything against Seed Saver at all, but it probably is a very good product for somebody that will find a use for it. I just didn't get on with it. So quickly back to the comments. No, been to 2 garden centres this weekend from No Dig to Victory. Were they any good, the garden centres? Mike Stevens has been doing lots of work in the garden this week. Purple hazel bear planted hazel bare roots plants as a hedge and started a lavender hedge. So fantastic. Stuart Jackson is out there. Hello to you. Got dodgy looks looking at gardening stuff, No Dig It to Victory, in the 2 garden centres that he popped into. By the way, everyone, if you want to call in to add your voice to this, it's 07307 135 174, and you can zap yourself in on the screen with your webcam and microphone. I'll pop the link up in just a second. What else? You've been busy then, Mike? Now, Richard Foves is saying wheelbarrows are fab, and I agree. Are they a gardening gadget? I don't class them as a gardening gadget, but I'm just looking around. I've got some handles that have gone onto my wheelbarrows called I-tip handles, and they cantilever the handles. So instead of lifting a wheelbarrow up like that, you lift it up like that, and as you lift it, the handles move in much more comfortable way. Hope that's making sense. If I do it sideways, so you lift a wheelbarrow like that, and then as you lift it up, you sort of twist your hand, and one of those things that probably isn't a problem for most people, but when you suddenly come across this cantilever handle, it does make wheelbarrows much more pleasant to use. I have a Dutch hoe and an old-fashioned lawn aerator from Mike Stevens with 4 tubes on the end of a handle. Do you use it? I mean, the Dutch hoe is regularly used, one of my favourite gardening tools, and pretty much a bog standard thing that we would have in the allotment or in the vegetable patch. Lawn aerator, I've got to admit, I've never used one because I don't really care much about my lawn. I probably should, because it's a quagmire at the moment because it's so wet and it's just turned into mud. Chickens aren't helping. Ian Beddoes, we have a Flymo electric leaf blower. It's great for playing below football with, a beach ball with the grandkids. Now, a leaf blower, is that a gadget? Probably is, but I've got a petrol one. Don't use it anymore since we got rid of our sycamore tree that we had in our garden. Is it me, or is a Seed Saver a spoon? It certainly looks a similar sort of shape to a spoon, so I do agree. And I thought it would be actually really, I've said this time and time again, I thought the Seed Saver was going to be a brilliant tool to make just sowing a lot easier and get those spacings just right. Unfortunately, it just didn't work. And as No Dig to Victory has said, it looks like it took longer and more difficult. I would say it was fiddly to use a Seed Saver, and it did take a bit longer, but because everything was spaced correctly, it probably would have saved time in the long run. And I'm sure the more you use it, the more you get used to it. The trouble I had with it, actually, more than anything, it hurt my back because I was leant over on the ground trying to do it. I found keeping the wheel inflated at the right pressure on a wheelbarrow makes so much difference to pleasurable gardening and it being a chore. I agree. In fact, now you can get tubeless tyres for your wheelbarrow, which you don't get punctures on or anything. And I actually much prefer those. And they do wear out over time, but it takes so long. Turbo Stream's favourite gadget in the garden is a bulb planter. I used it to plant my brassicas this year. I actually just saw mine earlier, my bulb planter, and I agree. It is a worthwhile tool to have. Not just for planting bulbs, as you've said, for planting your brassicas, because they do actually, I think they are the perfect size and shape to for a plant pot, if you think about it. So you take your soil out, you pot your plant straight in, jobs are good. And so yeah, bulb planter. No dig to Victory's best gadget, but I need to get a new one. It's one of the garden trolleys you pull along. It's so much easier for kids to put all the weeds in. They take it in turns, pulling it to the compost bins. Yes, a garden trolley. I actually use one for work because it's handy for moving my tools around from site to site. So yeah, definitely. Excuse me. Definitely a good one. The only trouble with them is when the wheels get too thin and they dig into the ground. But I'm sure there's some out there with much bigger wheels. Excuse me, my throat's just gone dry. Yeah, but what I've actually got is an old garden centre shopping trolley, with two wheels on either side. That's brilliant in a garden. I won't tell you how I got hold of it because I shouldn't have it. So Mike Stevens, who said about the lawn aerator earlier, said that he used it in the summer, but has heard agricultural gypsum and lime helps clagginess and water soak away. Probably true, but I'm just not interested in lawn, in all honesty. It's just there. But it would be nice to not have it so. It's more for the chickens than anything that we have the lawn, but it would be nice to not have it so slippery. Andrew Norris, hello to you. Now, Steve, evening. For gadgets, I have a wooden tool used to make small pots out of old newspaper. Used it a lot of years, but these days we don't buy a newspaper. Now, I know actually Stuart Jackson makes plant pots out of newspapers with the school. So I actually do have one of these wooden contraptions as well. But actually, you could use. I was going to show the cup. Could use a cup, but you probably with the handle it'll get in the way. But a glass works just as well. Yeah, definitely. That's actually another really good gadget. Something that I do like and have really enjoyed using. I don't make enough paper pots anymore because I don't have the time to sit down and make them. But definitely a good way. And newspaper. Don't read newspapers anymore. Ian Beddoes is saying he's only ever had solid tyres on a wheelbarrow, but Grandad, who had over 1,000 hens, had a blow-up one that we used to the compost heap. I'm trying to be polite there. Thank you, Ian. But yeah, I think the solid tyres are actually much better, in my opinion. Cut the hole, a small handful of chicken pellets in the bottom, then the plant, dusting of fish blood and bone. And yeah, now Turbo Stream is talking about what we said earlier, using the bulb planter to plant plants. Excuse me. I was going to pop the comment actually, wasn't I? If you want to zap yourself in, the link is now going up it won't go to the Facebook group if you're watching there, but it'll go to the Facebook page and YouTube. But yeah, the bulb planter to plant plants and using a dusting of blood, fish and bone and chicken manure, actually, great idea. You are starting to make me think about using the bulb planter a bit more, Turbo Stream. So yeah, I've got to do the advertising of Stuart Jackson. Nice cup, Richard, would make a great Christmas present. Yeah, it would. They are available on the veggroundpodcast.co.uk. But if you are a supporting member, you can use the discount code and get it at cost price. I put a podcast out about that last weekend. And actually, I quite like these cups because it feels solid. By the way, as I said earlier, these ones with the Christmas logo is only available throughout December. I've got to try and sell these. So let's quickly come back to what we are discussing tonight. Gardening gadgets that you have, and have they been a success? Now, I've been talking about the seed save and how I felt that was not much of a success for me personally. But what everyone else is saying, they've came up with some good ideas and not necessarily gadgets. A bulb planter, a wheelbarrow. I mentioned about the handles I have for a wheelbarrow. What else was there? The paper pot maker, which I think is actually really good. Just I don't have the time to make paper pots, but certainly something worth using and doing more of. We'll have to. I know Stuart Jackson sent me a video on how to make paper pots, which I only discovered the other day. Well, I'll have to get when we're out in the new shed, we can make paper pots on the live stream. Oh, okay. Okay, so other gadgets. So no dig to victory. Washing line at the allotment to hang onions to dry out after lifting. You get some dodgy looks and pics posted online. I like that because it's not a gadget you can buy as such, except for the washing line, but it's something you can easily construct, and it works to dry your onions. I actually usually dry my onions in the greenhouse, but hey, washing line works, then why the hell not? And I think even Steve enjoyed that. We do that at home, no room to hang the washing line. Don't need to hang the washing, do we? At the end of the day. Yes, as I said, call in 07307 135 174. It's running across the bottom of the screen if you want to call it in. And we have somebody hopefully coming in on the Zap. There he is. Hello,
Good
Stuart.
evening, Richard.
How you doing?
I heard my name. Yeah, I'm doing fine, mate. Yeah, fine. It's just a bit wet for me to get out there today, so
Yeah,
I did Christmas stuff as well.
Everyone.
So, paper pots, easiest thing in the world to make.
Yeah.
And you can make this time of the year, put them in a dustbin bag, hang them in the shed, and they're ready when you need them.
Okay, cool. How do you go about making them?
Well, I've got a little bit of board, sit on my lap, and I just roll them on my maker, chuck them in a bag. When the bag's full, take it down the shed. And then when I need them in the spring, when you're running about like a headless chicken in the garden, they're already there.
Right.
So I use them for flowers all the time.
You use them for flowers all the time, and you spend a lot of time making them. I mean, I just want to, if anybody out there doesn't know quite what we're talking about, you would take a bit of newspaper,
yeah,
roll it around a paper pot maker.
Yeah, you can use a jam jar. You can, anything like that. Glass, flat bottom glass, and it just, especially with tender rooted plants or even carrots and parsnips, I found this year, you do 2 or 3 in the pot, then you just drop the pot in the ground, and when you come to thinning out, you just thin out the ones you want like you would normally, because the pot will rot away.
Oh right, yeah. Well, that makes a lot of sense. Bit like, because I use root trainers, although I don't use them for carrots, admittedly, but my root trainers are great because I just pop them out of the root trainer and pop them straight in the ground, which I like because there's no waste.
Yeah, that's I like I put root trainers on my Christmas list this year, but I still think I use paper, especially like at school. I use them all the time because we can't afford to keep going buying plastic pots. So paper pot, it's just the way recycled. So we use the paper out the recycle bin, not necessarily newspaper. It's any paper, as long as it's not glossy. The glossy stuff tends to be a bit rubbish at breaking down. But the printer paper and stuff like that, we use a lot of that. Just a piece of A4 cut in half down the middle from top to bottom. And then you can get 2 pots out of a piece of paper. So so just. Yeah, people just think, newspapers, but you get all the junk mail. Use your junk mail. Well, I bet you put yours in your compost bin, but
or we use it for burning.
Yeah,
fantastic.
So that's my top gadget.
That's your top gadget, a paper. I mean,
Yeah.
Was it you that suggested it earlier? I think it was Steve who suggested it earlier as well.
Yeah.
So that's 2 votes for the paper pot maker so far.
And they're cheap as chips to buy. Or if you're any good with the lathe, you can make one. You know, they're not hard to make.
Yeah.
But I've got 3 different sizes. So like with tender plants, I then will pot it on again, like you would with a plastic pot.
Yeah.
Because I'm potting on all the time for the sales. Then the last time I put on, and then I put into a pot, and that way I'm not got a bucket full of pots next to me in the greenhouse. I've just got a bag hanging off the side of the rack, and I just put my hand in, get what I need. So through the winter, when you're a bit bored at night and the wife's watching Emmerdale or whatever, that's when I do it.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. In fact, that's probably a great job to do throughout December when we're a bit quiet in the garden front.
Yeah, I've sort of not come to a halt, but it's sort of, I got a job to get to my greenhouse, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's so wet out there.
Yeah. It's the same. I mean, I went down the allotment yesterday and I just did a bit of weeding, but it just doesn't feel like doing anything, in all honesty.
That's what you've got to invent, something that kills the weeds for us gardeners, because they grow whatever the weather, don't they?
They do. Chickens are good for that though, so it is invented.
Yeah, but as you found out this year, they also eat your plants.
Well, yeah, I've always known that, but yeah.
And the other thing, the other top tip for new gardeners I found is eggshells for slug pellets instead of slug pellets.
Yeah.
Some people won't use them, but if you just put them in the oven, when you turn the oven off after cooking your evening meal, just put a few in the bottom of the oven. Then in the morning, take them out, spray them around the tender plants. They do work.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I go for a lot of eggshells. I tend to throw it in my compost heap, so it gets into the soil. But that's another great idea. Another great little tip to eco-friendly gardening, we call it.
Yeah, well, I've got too many animals that come into my garden. There's fields that back onto my house. So I've got foxes and badgers and everything comes into my garden. I don't want them eating the slug pellets. No. So I've decided at the beginning, well, before lockdown, I wasn't going to use them again. So I've gone completely without them. And it's a bit like, as we discussed the other week about peat. I'm not using peat and compost.
Yeah.
And it's not that much more expensive. You're talking 20 pence a bag. It's nothing, is it? In the grand scheme of things.
I found Homebase, they sell 2 identical bags of compost, but one's peat-free, and it's exactly the same price.
Oh, well, then that's where I'll be going.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing now. And I've made it. So.
Yeah, we're going to do the same at school as well, peat-free at school.
Peat-free.
And that way I can get it into the education. So if the children then go home and say, you don't want that in your compost to the parents, then we've done our job.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think it's down to us as consumers, isn't it?
Yeah. I think I know we've got a few people who don't garden, so they might be wondering what we're talking about here. We're talking about where peat is used is from a compost, where it's dug up from a peat bog. It doesn't recover fast enough, and we're mining it and killing the eco structure of these places. And it's used in compost. In one area it's used in, I should say. There's other areas, but peat-free compost does exist. It's not, until recently, it's not been considered as good as the compost containing peat, but I think it's getting there, and it's certainly affordable now.
Yeah, well, I've not bought a deer brand. I must admit, I've not bought one of the top brands, and I found it not a lot of difference.
Yeah.
So
I found that.
I will do a trial because I've got 1 bag of peated compost left at school. So I will do a trial with the kids to see which is best and prove to them that there's no difference, because I think there's no difference, but I've got to prove it. You know, I've got to prove it to justify me spending that extra bit of money.
Definitely. Well, I mean, I can tell you I did an experiment this year with peat-free and peat-based compost, and there was no difference. So I reckon you'll find exactly the same.
Yeah, I'm sure I will.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I better let you crack on with the show.
Yeah.
And
thank you so much for
carry
telling
on
us about
watching.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for telling us about paper pots. So
not a problem.
We'll find out what everyone else has got to say on that.
Well, there is a video, but like you said, when your shed's finished, you can do one and everybody can see how easy it is.
Yeah, and hopefully when COVID is over, we can get you down and do it on screen as well. So,
yeah, not a problem. Yeah. Okay then, Rich, you take care.
All right, dude. Take care. Bye.
All right, take care. Bye.
Right, that was Stuart Jackson. Let's remove him. Stuart Jackson talking about paper pots, which seems like a gadget everyone is saying has been brilliant. So if you are looking for a Christmas present for a gardener, a paper pot maker seems like the thing. So I saw some. What did I see? Mike Stevens. What about root grow? Isn't that more beneficial for new plants? So that's what I used for the hazel hedge. I've got some somewhere. Root grow, which is a mycorrhizal fungi. I think it's used in it, which creates a pathway for communication between plants. It's really great stuff, and it's found in root grow. I'm sure I've got some somewhere. Not in there. I'll find it, but the company to get it from is Empathy. They're a really good company. I was complimented on this was using the method that Turbo Stream said earlier of using a bulb planter to plant out his plants and added some chicken manure paired at some bloodfish and bone to the hole. Now, Mike Stevens is a bit more of a traditionalist when it comes to his tools. That's fine. I think I prefer my older tools by far. I've got a shed, not a shed. I've got a spade that is probably older than me, and it's my favourite tool by far. Turbo Streams are asking, would a small jam jar make paper pots? I haven't got one of those wooden things. Yes, a small jam jar or even a drinking glass will work just as well. But a wooden paper pot maker, it just makes it a nice gift. Pauline King is out there. Hello to you. Now, that's what I wanted to find out. Steve, gadget I use all the time. He's just remembered a min-maximum thermometer, useful at home and on the plot. So that is actually, I've had a couple of minimum and maximum thermometers in my time, but I've had them in greenhouses. I found that they break really easily, and I'm talking less than a year out of a thermometer. And I want them to last a bit longer than that. Ian Beddoes, of course, being the joker, asking about the eggshells. Does that stop slugs going into the oven? Now, what you do is you take those eggshells and you sprinkle them around your plants, and that stops them, or should stop, slugs eating your plants. However, Turbo Stream is saying that the eggshells did not in his urban garden. The slugs eat everything, even onions. So, on that note, what I do is try and encourage as many birds as I can into my garden because they will eat the slugs. It's a bit difficult at the moment because we're not allowed to feed birds. I'll talk about that in a minute. But we when they come into the garden, they will eat the slugs and snails, and but so I leave some seeds out there. Normally I would seeds, make it all very friendly for the birds to come in, and that's why I don't use any slug pellets, and I haven't used slug pellets in years. 6x fertilizer, Mike Stevens is talking about. I've got some of that. I've used it in my greenhouse, and yes, it is very, very good fertilizer. It stinks, but it is a really good fertilizer. The results are pretty good. Ian Beddoes, I always thought the peat helped with drainage, and you're kind of right there. Peat, it does create lots of little air pockets in the compost, which helps with drainage and helps absorb water but not hold on to water. It aids drainage. You are right there. But the coir is what's used in quite a bit now, which is like coconut husks. That's just as good. Now, peat itself, it does work. I have now gone peat free, and I've made that pledge. It's my New Year's resolution. The coir is just as good, in all honesty. But the problem with peat, as I said, is the actual mining of it, because it destroys the ecosystem. It will recover, but it recovers at like 1 centimeter a year, and we're mining it at like 10 meters a year. So definitely worth getting on and getting rid of our peat. Yeah, 1 bag of 6 eggs is supposed to equal 6 bags of organic compost. And Richard Vobes, old tools are great, which I totally agree. Old tools are great. They were made properly. They seem to last as long as they've been looked after. But absolutely, absolutely are the best thing. So sadly, we have too many cats around here, so the birds stay away. Well, that's easy to sort out. You can make your garden a cat unfriendly, so the cats don't come into your garden. Your birds will come into your garden more. Allotment Life, Brian, he's out there. He's saying hello to everyone. And my good friend, Muddy Boots. I've frozen again, haven't I? Hold on. Let me just unplug myself and put myself back in, because that's not a flattering look of me. This keeps happening. And there we go. Sorted. Back to how we should be. Sorry about that. Yes, my good friend Nigel is out there. Nigel, what do you think about? And Brian, we are asking, what garden gadgets do you have, and have they been a success? If you want to call in, the number is 07307135174, or you can zap yourself in and appear on screen alongside me, which the link is going up now. Right, what have we got? Stuart Jackson. Bubble wrap is a must for every gardener to help keep heat in the greenhouse or around the wormery. Yeah, I've never used bubble wrap, in all honesty, because I don't get it too cold here. I'm very, very, very lucky with our weather here that I don't feel I need. Might be different one year, but certainly if you're further up north, I know Stuart is in a bit of a colder climate than me. Bubble wrap is essential to keep the greenhouse warm. So Nigel has came up with a really good gadget that I'm going to look into, a speed hoe. So I'm just going to tap it in so we can see what it is. Speed hoe, speed hoe, speed hoe. That looks... Is it this one? Right, you obviously can't see it just yet. Actually, yes, I thought it was. Stop screen, share screen, Chrome tab. There we go. So this is what I think Nigel is on about, a speed hoe. I've got one, a little one. It sits actually in my shed at home. That's not a great photo. What you can probably see is it's shaped a bit differently to your standard hoe. And that means when you're using it, you're not only cutting when you push it, you're also cutting when you pull it. So it's weeding in both directions. In fact, I think we've got a little video here we might be able to watch. Let's just go full screen. I don't know if the audio is going out, so bear with. But you get the idea of how it's being used, with a double-edged blade cutting through the... There you go. That's a great shot of it. Nigel is saying, yep, that's the one that he's on about. I think that's the. Oh no, it still goes on. Gives you a good idea of what we can see. So yeah, as I said, it cuts on the backstroke, and it'll cut on the forward stroke as well. If only my wife would help me like that in the garden, it'd make life a lot easier. Yeah, there we go. There we go. I'm going to stop that. So get rid of that. So there we go. That is the speed hoe that Nigel recommends, and I actually quite like that. I do have one. I know that much, but I very, very rarely use it because it's at home, and mine's got a short handle. That'll be another thing I'll be able to show you when we're in the new shed. It's only got a short handle. If I had the longer one, I'd probably use it a lot more. That being said, on the allotment, I do have a double-sided hoe. It's called a stirrup hoe because it looks like a stirrup from what you would use in a horse to ride a horse. And I like that because, as like the speed hoe, it does cut in both directions and do a lot of the weeding. Now, I seem to be talking about hoes. I use a Dutch hoe from Stirrup. That was my dad's, and I find it great. Yeah, again, my hoe I've had since I was 15 years old. It's quite an old one, and it's brilliant. Actually, it lasts. I do look after it, and that's something I haven't done that this year. That'll have to be a podcast to talk about how to care for tools. What I normally do every year, I will sharpen up all my tools and my blades. I'll wipe away any rust and really clean them up, get rid of any rust, sharpen all the blades, and then use linseed oil on the wooden handles to really soften up those handles and make sure they don't go dry and brittle. You just reminded me that's something I should do. I completely forgot about it. So there's still time. January would work, but yeah, that Dutch hoe I've had since I was 15 years old. So, and I've done that every single year. Cleaned it up, got rid of any rust, treated the blade, the shaft. It lasts. It lasts. Any hoe does for me from Brian is just fork or spade. I can't use any longer. I've seen some gardening gadgets about forks or spades that sort of dig themselves, and I've never worked out if they're worth it or not. I don't know if anybody's had experience of them. I have to see if I can find it quick. Oh, we'll see if anybody else knows what I'm talking about. You sort of plunge it in the ground and you push a lever and it digs it up by itself. What else is going on? What else is going on? Turbo Stream's been funny. Ho, ho, ho. Mike Stevens, you are too kind. You are only 20, aren't you? No, I'm 18. No, I'm 38 now. So that hoe is, wow, nearly 20. I've had it for nearly, I can't do the sums, 15. Yeah, nearly 20 years I've had it. And it was secondhand when I bought it from a car boot. So, yeah. Is it like Trigger's broom? That's a good point, Stuart. Is it like Trigger's broom? How many handles have you had on that hoe? It's still the same handle that was there when I bought it. Is like I said, because I treat it with linseed oil every year, I don't leave it outside. I make sure it comes inside when I'm not using it. And I actually keep a bucket of sand and oil just inside my shed door. I plunge the shaft or the cutting tool or the bladed instrument into that sand and oil every time I use it anyway. And that sand acts like sandpaper, cleans off any dirt and any rust, and then the oil acts as a protectant on that blade anyway. So when it comes to this time of year, I still carry out my annual maintenance with my tools, but it's just made life a lot easier because I've just constantly got in that habit of plunging my tool into this sanding bucket after I finished using it. The sand keeps the tool sharp, particularly with hoes or spades. It just adds that little bit more sharpness to that blade. Robert Brailsford, hope I pronounced that name right, his best allotment gadget was the kettle. I can't agree, completely agree. The kettle is an undervalued gadget, but also on that note, the garden seat, somewhere where you can sit down and just look across everything, is undervalued as well. So the kettle and the seat is that. That's right. Nigel came up with the correct name, the Back Saver Blade. Unfortunately, in Brian's case, it wouldn't work because of one leg. So I will try and find something for you, Brian. I'll keep looking, and if I see anything, I'll let you know. I only leave the oldest of tools on the plot. Something thieves can't sell. That's a good point. I think excuse me, did I discuss this on a live show? Was it on the podcast where I said I only leave tools on my allotment shed that I can be stolen, or won't cost me anything if they, or won't be too upset if they get stolen. Not necessarily the oldest, but basically the cheapest. And if they go, they get stolen. That being said, we were talking about the Back Saver spade, Stuart Jackson. The self-dig spades are not that good. My dad had one, and when we cleaned out his shed, it was like new. I think that says it all. I've never actually tried using one, so I don't know. But what I've seen of them, I think they would be very, very, very difficult to use. And a bit like a lot of the gadgets, like the seed saver item I mentioned earlier. A great idea, but the actual using it just became too fiddly, and therefore it didn't get used, which is probably the same case in Stuart Jackson's dad's case. Now, an all-important best gadget, a large tub of elbow grease. Elbow grease and determination. Work smart but don't work hard or work smart but I can't remember the phrase now, but you get what I'm saying. And also added to the Back Saver, Stuart Jackson said they are no good on clay. So on my soil, and that's what I actually thought, on my soil they'll be no good with the really heavy clay that we have, whereas on somewhere like Kevin Hall's allotment, where it's really friable, really easy to dig, it'll probably be actually quite fine. And Nigel had on the theft of tools, carving your initials or branding them into tool handles to make them easier to identify at a car boot. And that's certainly the same with bikes. I remember in the 90s, it was all the police would come around to our school and stamp our postcode into our bikes to make it easier for them not to be stolen, or make them easier for identification. Right, I'm just going to add a comment with the link. If anybody wants to appear on the screen to add their own thing, just like using a webcam, you can appear straight on the screen and add something that you want to the conversation. Or you can call in on 07307 135 174. We've got about 10 minutes left before I close up. And but TurboStream, I think the key to these gadgets is keep them simple and easy to use. I don't do complicated. And yeah, I think that's true. With a seed saver, it was complicated to use, fiddly, and therefore didn't get to use it as much as I probably should have. I know I've still got it somewhere, but I don't know where, and that probably says all you need to know. Right, I mentioned about feeding birds earlier, and that we're not allowed to do it at the moment. And the same with if you keep chickens or any type of poultry. Tomorrow, I think it comes into play. We're not allowed to let our chickens free range, and we're not meant to be feeding wild birds either, because of the risk of bird flu and that contaminated things. You've probably heard all about this if you keep chickens anyway, but I thought I'd better bring it up. And I'll tell you what I've done with my chickens and my poultry. My quails are inside their runs all the time anyway, because they can't free range. They wouldn't last long if they were free ranging anyway, but they definitely undercover all the time, so they can't come into can't interact with wild birds anyway. The chickens, however, since the lockdown and my wife's been working from home more this year, the chickens have had more free range of the garden than ever before. They're out there all day long doing their thing. Normally we would let them out when I get home from work, whereas now 9 o'clock in the morning they're basically out and about fully in the garden. We can't do that from tomorrow, so what we're going to do tomorrow instead is they're going to stay inside their cage. Now I've added some tarpaulin over the top of the cage so any wild birds can't drop anything in there and risk infecting my birds. And I've added an extra sort of run, or extended the run a bit, to give them a bit more space. That way they can then just they're going to be grumpy. My chickens are going to be grumpy no matter what, but I think it's just going to make them a bit happier, and I feel better giving them that bit extra space. I think we're sticking with the gadgets. Money Boots method of seed sowing: a pencil and a crease in the seed packet. Yeah, that does make life a lot easier. So I'm trying to see if I've got an open packet. I've got so many seeds everywhere. I must have one that's open. There we go. Radish seeds. There we go. It's not like I'm low on radishes, is it? So hopefully Nigel's going to tell me if I do this right from what is being said. I'll get a bit of paper. I've got this bit of paper. Fold. If I can open this packet anyway, it's going to be so much easier in the new shed. Did I tell you I've built a new shed? So they've gone all over the place. So what we've got there is seeds in there, and you just use. I've only got a pen to hand to push them along to sow the seeds out. Nice and easy. Hopefully I've got that right, Nigel, based on what I've seen and know of from what you've said in the past. I don't know why I'm bothering saving those seeds. It's not like I've not got plenty of radish seeds, but hey, it's food at the end of the day. So 5 minutes to go. If you want to call it in or you want to zap yourself in, the phone number is 07307 135 174. You can talk about what we've been discussing, or you can start an entirely new conversation, of course. Or if you want to zap yourself in the Facebook page and the YouTube channel, you should see a link for how you can appear on screen using our webcam type thing. Yeah, Nigel is saying perfect. So I got that right. Thank God for that, because that would have been embarrassing if I got it wrong. I have made a damper the same size as seed trays in the past, which helps level off the compost. You can buy them on Amazon. And actually, that's something I keep saying I'm going to do. And I've got a part of to-do list. Build a seed tamper. What Stuart's talking about is when you fill for those that don't know, fill a seed tray up with compost. Take this little piece of, could be wood or something, and just press it down on the compost to compress the soil slightly, which just makes it a bit better for the plants when they grow, or the seeds don't get washed away so quickly and things. I keep meaning to make one because my seed trays are quite specific. I use because actually I have got a seed tray, haven't I? I've got these chilies grown in them. These are the seed trays I use, and as you can see, they're quite thin. But I've just got to make one for it. That's a job to go on the list. Ian Beddoes, we got 4 minutes to go, guys. If you want to call in or anything. Is your Christmas tree up yet with all the lights working? No, my Christmas tree is not up. The wife, if anybody doesn't know, we're not having a Christmas tree up this year. It's a bit of a running joke. But the wife yesterday did say she wanted it up. She went up into the loft to get it and then discovered she couldn't get it. So it's not gone up. Nearly caved in. I used the bottom of plastic pots to tamp my compost down. That's what I also do, actually, thinking about it, or what I actually prefer to do is drop them just a sort of few inches from the surface and just drop them onto the table, and that sort of does it itself. And I find that's how I do it. But I do want to make a tamper on that same thing. Now, Nigel has said use marine ply. His are over 30 years old, so that's definitely got to be worth doing marine ply because it's going to be doing it. However, I didn't even think of this. Send me your tray dimensions, please. Dad is obviously going to go out into his shed and do a similar idea, so I'll have to send you a tray to do it. I didn't even think of asking you, Dad. Sorry. So two minutes to go. Allotment tool. Haven't seen you for ages, buddy. He's out there. Good evening to you. Mike Stevens, time goes so quickly on this chat. Time is nearly up and it seems like 5 minutes. It does go really quickly, actually, even sitting in this seat. But this is the great thing about this live show chatting with everyone. So that's why I love doing it. Anyway, I'm going to start closing up for this week. We'll be back again next Sunday. We'll still be in this shed next Sunday. We're going to save the new shed for the new year as long as I can get the inside all set up and everything. On the audio podcast that goes out Monday night, I think I'm going to be talking about the shed build in a bit more detail and share what I've learned so far. What is the subject for next week? No idea. It's going to be whatever I can find in the newspaper, or if anybody has any idea of a subject that they want to discuss, email me or send me some information or something, and I'll do something on that. It's very much I choose between week and week what we're going to do, trying to keep it seasonal. Will next week be the last one before Christmas? It will be, won't it? Yes. So, yeah, anybody got a subject, just let me know any ideas and work around. Don't forget, if you want to send pictures or videos in, we can play those as well throughout this show, just to add more elements to it. Just quickly wrap up. Yes, let me have sizes and can make a few, I'm sure. Okay, what I'll do, Dad, actually, I'll bring one of the trays round to you, and you can make it from that. Not much going on. Need to sort microgreens from allotment tool. Have I got microgreens? I haven't got my microgreens in here. They're downstairs in the kitchen table, but definitely growing quite a few microgreens at the moment. Looking forward to the new shed, Richard. Me too. I'm so pleased with it. I really am. Are you doing a show on Christmas Sunday, Richard? Yes, absolutely. Every Sunday, unless I'm ill or at a show or something, I will be doing a live show, just like I always do a podcast every Monday night, unless something gets in the way. But yes, Christmas Sunday, we will still be live. That's 2 weeks' time. How to grow holly in time for Christmas, Ian Beddoes is suggesting. Not this year. Not time this year. Anyway, That is it for this week. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in and keeping the conversation going. We'll be back next Sunday, 6 p.m. as always. If you want to throw any suggestions or topic discussions or anything like that, it's richard@theveggroundpodcast.co.uk. That's my email address, and let me know what you think. Good night, everyone. Please take care, and I'll speak to you all again next time.